Hello and welcome to another edition of DevHub Live. I am your host, Joe from DevHub. We have another exciting episode coming today, continuing the theme from last week, talking about Bitcoin on near and projects that are building around that. Some really exciting stuff here. Today, our guests are from Mine Labs, talking about Runemine, and they're going to get into all that great stuff. And I'm really excited to talk more about that because I personally want to learn a little bit more too. So I think this should be a great episode around that, especially around the building piece of that is going to be something that we've talked at the abstract level in different workshops and stuff like that before. We haven't really got into like what it actually looks like when you build a product leveraging some of this stuff. Also, just some quick housekeeping. If you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, down below, subscribe to our newsletter. Here at DevHub, every single week we produce a newsletter that has all the happenings in the developer ecosystem within and around Near and Near AI. So make sure you're following along with that. If you are looking for information on how to get started to build or looking for dev support, that's also at the bottom of the screen at all times. I do not want to take too much time with the housekeeping in the front because I want to make sure that we get to any other questions and things like that. If you have questions or whatever else, feel free to comment on any different streams that we are on live right now, and we will try to get to those questions as well. Before further ado, let me bring up the guys from Runemine. Hey guys, thanks for coming on today. Maybe we could just take like 30 seconds and maybe you guys talk a little bit about what Runemine is, what it comes from Mine Labs, and kind of what your roles are in the project.
Yeah, sure thing. I think I can start on this. So hi guys, I'm Jeff, Head of Business and Development at Runemine. We've been building in the Runes ecosystem, being the leading fungible asset on Bitcoin. We've been building for the last 13, 14 months in the space. A lot of our team have come from, done the ringer. I've personally been in the space about 8-9 years now. And came in at the Bitcoin level, saw the opportunities in the Ethereum space, moved over there, then over to Solana, and then as kind of we saw this emergence of the renaissance of kind of innovation on the Bitcoin L1, we all came together again about 14 months ago and started building infrastructure for the Runes protocol. That started off with our own Runes canonical indexer, led on to portfolio manager. We launched our etch and mint service for creating new runes on the halving when the Runes protocol went live. Since then, we built the first and only publicly available Runes to Solana bridge. Now 3 times audited and used by the likes of Pups and Billion Dollar Cat and all of the leading major runes. We hit TVLs of about 150 million in TVL and processed over 50 million in transactions on that side. We've got a lot of experience kind of in all the different ecosystems and really excited to bring more functionality and more products to the Bitcoin space. And a lot of our kind of ethos is bringing this functionality, like things happen slowly on the Bitcoin side, but by integrating other chains, we're actually able to bring this functionality to Bitcoin now and propagate kind of the utilization of Bitcoin assets. So it's been a really exciting journey getting involved with the Near community. We're working on a new upcoming product called Runeshot, and this is going to be a bonding curve experience to create new runes. We're utilizing Near on the back end and with all of the chain abstraction to allow users to come in, deposit their Bitcoin to begin with, moving on to Near and Solana assets, and then create and also trade these new exciting runes in a fast, cheap, gasless environment. And it's been a pleasure meeting everyone in the Near space so far. It's been a super warm welcome. We've had a huge amount of support offered to us from everyone, from the Near team to Proximity Labs to all of the other projects building. So it's been a real pleasure kind of getting to know everyone and getting involved. And I'll hand it over to you for an introduction there.
Jeff, I feel like you compressed the whole show in 2 minutes there. You summarized it all. I'm the CTO for Runemine, and I kind of lead the dev efforts there and the team. And yeah, we've been henceforth juggling with kind of just building all kinds of tooling for the Runes ecosystem. I personally, was always kind of at the forefront of the other, kind of like ecosystems that were being developed actively. So back in 2020, that was, all of DeFi. I've done DeFi for a long time on EVM, and always dipped my toes into what was new and coming up. So I did some Terra stuff when that was alive and kicking, and I did some Solana along the way, and now I'm doing some Bitcoin dev stuff kind of at the front again. And yeah, we're happy to be working with Near. We'll dig into all that.
No, awesome, awesome. So just for people who maybe are new to the concept of runes, can you just kind of from both a, I guess, a end user standpoint, but then also maybe a technical standpoint of what exactly are runes on Bitcoin? Like, what does that actually mean for someone?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's what we call like a meta protocol, right? So it's like a set of rules that people obey that uh, kind of are, work on top of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin itself doesn't really have anything for tokens. It doesn't even really have the scripting, to let you build some kind of a token contract. But this one person decided to write some rules saying that, like, hey, if you send a transaction and in the little memo field, if you will, you say like, hey, I just minted something, then we'll have some indexers, some off-chain kind of component that looks at those transactions with that special, tag there and be like, oh, okay, so this there's a token, we'll keep track of it, and then you can build apps and you can build UIs using the data from those indexers. So it's kind of like doing everything that you would have done if you have smart contracts, but the layer one, if you will, Bitcoin doesn't really know that it's happening. And from that spawned kind of a whole ecosystem of people that observe those, those rules and those ERC20, if you will, abstractions.
Yeah,
And
that's a great question. You go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so just kind of like the evolution. Like originally, Casey, the founder of Runes, also released ordinals. So NFTs on Bitcoin, where the data is stored on the blockchain, and that was kind of really the first innovation in this sense. Runes worked slightly differently to how ordinals did, but there has been a bunch of other meta protocols that have come along in between kind of ordinals, and then what's now kind of what we believe is the dominant token standard moving forwards. Runes are the closest to kind of the core Bitcoin layer themselves being stored within the UTXO transactions. And this makes it actually, I'm not going to say it's simple, it makes it simpler to work with these than it has been with previous meta protocol standards. It's still very complicated. It takes a lot of innovative development to actually build products utilizing these token standards. There aren't any libraries, or there haven't been any libraries or real kind of tooling for the developers. So it's really been kind of like a ground up approach all the way, hence why we started off building our own indexer ourselves. And then everything from there, it takes a huge amount of dev hours to actually kind of get these things moving. At the same time, the Runes ecosystem, it's still very nascent, but the speed that it's been growing is insane. Like, and there's always this joke that everything else was the test net, and now we're on Bitcoin. And I in the sense of the speed of development, especially considering the limitations and how difficult it is to actually build with Bitcoin, the speed of development is crazy. We've got collateralized stable coins, we've got paid, short and holding stable coins like the Athena model. We've got AMMs being built out, and everyone has to kind of take their own different approach to it. There's a fair amount of off-chain computation that happens. There's a fair amount of trade-offs that have to happen, but we've actually seen the Bitcoin ecosystem more and more open to this idea that maybe there is some trade-offs that have to happen to actually bring this functionality, at least in the very near term,
Right.
until we have more underlying code such as Opcat that might enable more smart contract functionality. So and we're seeing more and more chains integrating it, from ICP to Near to all of these other blockchains that want a piece of this pie. And there's a lot of innovation coming in that space right now.
Yeah, it seems like from someone who's not building in that specific space that some of the things that are happening on other chains, and again, I'm using Near here as the example, but being able to do things like through intense chain abstraction, that you now can go almost that one step further, where like you have this meta layer, and you can start to build out some things that are similar to smart contracts, but now you can actually build smart contracts on other chains but interact with the protocol on Bitcoin. Is that right? Is that how you guys are thinking about stuff?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, exactly. There's always kind of like different steps that you have to take to bring this functionality in, but by the initial phases were very much to kind of take this into some new off-chain computation that people had built, but the realization that actually when you can kind of offhand a lot of this onto existing blockchains with large sets of decentralized node operators and have this functionality, especially some of the functionality that Near gives us, to actually interact directly with the Bitcoin L1, it's becoming more and more like, especially as time goes on, it's easier and easier to interact with the L1 from another chain. Have, again, Near is a great example, have your accounts, have everything managed by smart contracts on the Near side, but then keep those assets kind of based on the L1. And this is really, I think, kind of where things are moving forwards to, where Bitcoin can become this unifying kind of hub of users and assets. If you can have a Bitcoin asset, why not have if you can utilize your Bitcoin asset on other chains or utilize it from other chains, then why wouldn't you want it as a Bitcoin asset where that like the Bitcoin blockchain's essentially never going to go down? If we're all here, we kind of believe that. So why not have these assets and everything based around Bitcoin, and then have all these other chains kind of plug into it in different ways that allow us to interact with it and bring this functionality?
That's interesting. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the, I guess maybe the architecture that you have in place today, and then what does some of the things of bringing these other chains online start to do and change your architecture of how you think about building some of this stuff?
Well, I guess you got to specify which product, right? Like the bridge itself is something that's just moving funds across the bridge.
Right.
If we're talking specifically about what we're building with Near, which is this Runeshot product, I mean, the idea is really about it's really focused on those users of Bitcoin, or like getting that native experience of they already have a wallet. They know they're not necessarily the most keen on signing up for a different blockchain or transferring assets there and then having like a different wallet that they got to use to make operations there, and even if it's their their bridged Bitcoin assets over there. So really it's about using near meta transactions and relaying so that they can avoid even thinking about gas assets or gas fees, to give them these experiences where they land on the app, they connect their Bitcoin wallet, and all they do is sign one message. Their account is created, a key is created for most of the common transactions, and then they don't need to even sign anything or pay any gas, and they get to interact with DeFi, if you will.
Right.
So more specifically, the architecture there is like we're using Satoshi Protocol is another project building on Near, and they've did the hard work of writing kind of a smart contract for Near that does the same thing that the nearintents.org demo. I'm not sure if you remember from the last conference where they demoed, just using an EVM wallet and signing a message and being able to have that become, transactions that land on Near.
Mm-hmm.
So they did the same thing for Bitcoin wallets, basically. Where you sign from your wallet, and you're signing. You can see the JSON of the Near transactions and that you're intending to sign there, and the smart contract will just permissionlessly have this account that's on Near that's controlled by that Bitcoin wallet by recovering the public key there for that. So yeah, we're using that to kind of really make that experience what we wanted it to be for our users, while still using near for smart contracts.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I was wondering, as you guys are planning something, as you plan your roadmap and you think about how to approach this for your end users, what are some of the things that you are constantly, like, you want to make sure that like you're not letting go of? I mean, obviously, like there is a very strong ethos around Bitcoin as a whole, right? And that is like for many the purest form of what crypto is. But then as you start to abstract some of the stuff, is there a point where you start making development and design decisions to say what is the balance of what's best for our users versus sticking to some of these ethos?
I think I can kind of speak to that a little bit in the sense that, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, like the type of user that you're trying to activate here, like we talk a lot about unlocking the Bitcoin liquidity, but as we've seen, there is only so much of that liquidity that is being unlocked right now. I do believe as things move forwards and Bitcoin users become more comfortable with this, we will see more and more of this kind of unlock happening and more of it being utilized. But there's also a huge wave of users who are interested in Bitcoin, want Bitcoin exposure, Bitcoin assets, and they may not even be native, or they may now be native. So I think and there's also a lot of friction in the Bitcoin space. Everything is slow. Even getting set up with your wallets is slow. So there's the kind of two types of users that we've got at the moment, which are the people that have kind of got into the Bitcoin space, learned how to use it, and they are eager to experiment and do stuff. Most of the people in the Rune space, they're pretty interested in how can we experiment, how can we build on top of Bitcoin, and there's much less of kind of like that maximalist impression of we can't change anything. And this is the beauty of the Runes protocol. It doesn't change anything on Bitcoin because nothing has been changed at the protocol level. And also it's a permissionless decentralized blockchain. So anyone's allowed to do whatever they like.
You're saying the Bitcoin ancient wells is just a meme? They're not coming?
What I'm saying is it's going to take a little bit longer. I think the whales are being unlocked, but they're being unlocked slowly. And a lot of these people, they're not ready to dive into the next big thing being built. They want to see this kind of progression happening. So whilst we are kind of working towards unlocking them, there is a whole new wave of users coming to Bitcoin right now who have been in Solana, have been in these other ecosystems. And I think activating them is kind of super important, whether they're now coming in and they know the Bitcoin wallets and they're doing that, or in future when we can add Solana wallet and Near wallet abstraction into that as well and kind of take things cross chain. I think that kind of gets really interesting. But that I do kind of think the attitudes to Bitcoin maximalism are changing somewhat. And someone explained it before, kind of like the boomers and the Gen Zs, the people that have been in Bitcoin for 10, 15 years and they're happy with where they are. They're not keen on change, but there's a whole new wave of people that want to see this innovation. And there's definitely more kind of trade-offs that people are willing to take in their own personal risk. Like no one's really willing to risk it on Bitcoin, but they're willing to risk it in their own personal portfolio and get involved with these assets, which aren't as secure or as stable as Bitcoin itself. So I do think attitudes are changing in that sense.
Right. No, I mean that makes a ton of sense. And like for yourselves, I mean, as you are building out these products, especially again now as you are expanding to work more with Near, I was reading through your blog posts. You're working with multiple different chains to really bring in some different experiences. Is this something where then the goal is not only just to allow you guys to build a better product, but to eventually allow more developers to build on top of you? Like, so it becomes now one more, abstracted layer for certain things?
I don't think we're really thinking that direction. I think again we're really focused on solutions that get usage or like on the users
Yeah.
itself. Like your previous question, it's like it's not about Bitcoin maximalism. It's really more about there's this fresh blood in Bitcoin, fresh interest in Bitcoin, and how can we serve those users more, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we built some stuff that's kind of like public goods for Runes itself, like just like tools you can use. And we do have this indexer that we're running that we're hoping is like a competing implementation that people get to, if teams reach out to us and they're like, hey, we're building this app, we need some data for we're happy to share that. But I don't think we're really building kind of like a as a bigger picture focus and plan, like here's an SDK, here's some kind of like way to build all kinds of apps on top of us, right? We're really more focused on products that people end up using day to day.
Yeah.
But just to add to that, I think the side of it where we are doing that is through kind of just direct integrations of what we're building. We actually just we had our first major integration with the runes.com platform. They've fully integrated our bridge on their back end now. So in that sense, yes, there is the capability for projects to work with us and to have our infrastructure helping them facilitate things for their users, but not necessarily building on top of what we've already got in any kind of huge sense.
Right. No, I like to make that distinction because one of the things that I've been fairly passionate about, especially talking to different projects, is that there is sometimes a blurry line between that of like, am I building a product? Am I building more infrastructure? What am I actually providing? And
Yeah,
it's
people in
nice to
ETH
hear
always
that you
being like,
guys
there's too
are
much infra.
yeah, absolutely. And so it's nice to hear that you guys are really saying like, look, we have a product in mind. Like this is where we're trying to go, and we think we can execute on it best. And for me, like that is actually somewhat refreshing to hear because I would love to see more productized items versus just more infra and more things that require someone else to really execute on top of.
Well, it's much easier to sell a new blockchain or a new L2 $10 billion valuation.
Sure.
So, I think there is a lot of that going on in the space, and there's probably more than is necessary at this point. Our approach has always been product first rather than anything else. We're only currently in our community token round, moving to TGE first week of February. Yet we've built and had our bridge audited 3 times. It's been functioning, it's been usable this entire time. So we're very much focused on actually building the tools that users use. And then if that is useful to other projects to integrate to, then brilliant. We're more than happy to kind of expand out in that way. But we're not kind of selling a pipe dream at this point. We're selling actual products.
Yeah, no, that's great. If you don't mind, I want to pull up the actual Runeshot site and just talk a little bit about like what that experience is and where you guys are today. Do you want me to show when you guys want to show? It's up to you.
Yeah, if you can bring it up, crack on.
Yeah, I can absolutely bring that up. Let me just make sure. I'll bring up the app dot Runeshot. Is that the one you want? Is that the best one to show?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, here we go. So here's the page. I'll make it a little bit easier to see. There you go.
So yeah, this is our runes screener. It shows all of the different runes that have been being launched. And when you see the actual numbers of runes that have been launched to date, like it's pretty crazy to see how much interest and how much excitement there is being developed. And this was kind of like part of our kind of general public service goods that we wanted, and that's also the interesting thing about building in a space like we are is there was basically nothing when we started. There was no protocol yet to be used, and the protocol itself has only been alive for like 8 months now or something like that.
Yeah.
So we started off with the screener to allow people to kind of see what was happening in the space. From there, we built some tooling. If you click up on the tools button, so this is our etch and mint functionality, so that you can create a rune and define all of your parameters for the rune. We then built a transfer function so that you can send runes to other people, and as well a UTXO splitter, because there's huge issues in the Bitcoin space with having all your Bitcoin in one UTXO. So these were again tooling as we were kind of working through what were going to be the most useful things to people. From there, we then built out our portfolio page so that users can come in, connect to their wallet. If you had a Bitcoin wallet, it'd connect and it'd show you all of the runes that you're holding. And we're looking to kind of build out that functionality much more into kind of like a full coin market cap styled page, where users can like really kind of interact, build out their portfolios, maybe watch stuff and kind of keep track of everything that's going on.
Sure.
And then finally, our bridging functionality. As you will see as well, if you click on the $1 billion cat there, we now have, we actually just activated 5 more runes the other day. So we now have a list of about 12 different runes as well as SPL assets. So it's not only been the runes ecosystem that have been interested to move over to Solana, but we've actually had interest from Solana projects to kind of stake their claim in the Bitcoin space. We've launched 3 of them so far, and we had been in discussions with some of the largest meme coins on Solana who were pretty close to launching. Rooms have got a bit more quiet, but we're ongoing discussions about potentially getting some of the really big projects to kind of stake their claim in the Runes ecosystem and really kind of solidify Runes as the only option on Bitcoin these days.
Interesting. So, a couple different things. Let's start here with this part, the bridge here. Well, what does it mean for a user to bridge a rune to Solana? Well, like, what does that actually look like?
I'll let you rotate this one.
What do you mean by what does it mean, right? Like,
is it the same as is I am just transferring tokens, and so now you are minting those tokens on Solana? What's happening in that experience?
yeah, I mean, I think maybe a good thing is we got to talk about motivation, right? The real idea behind this is that Solana has, DEX and AMMs and trading in lower gas costs, and so we're just minting an SPL there on that side, so that you can go and trade it, on those AMMs there, or hold it easier, or speculative price, or people can buy it on Solana, and then once they've accumulated it back, they can bring it back in custody on Bitcoin, if you will, right? But really
That's
what
what you're saying.
happens
Yep.
is just it's a multi-sig bridge that takes in custody, the tokens on the source chain on Bitcoin, and then mints the corresponding amount on the destination chain.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. That I mean, that makes sense. And I mean, it sounds like the goal here with a lot of that stuff is really about, again, probably like a liquidity access, right?
It's
Things like that.
enabling all this,
Yeah.
the actual usage of the token without the pain of like a 10-minute transaction plus like a $15 fee for every time
Right.
you're trying to do one thing with the token, right?
Right.
So I think most projects are doing this kind of thing where they're kind of offloading that to a different chain or a different off chain something, and only settling back to Bitcoin is kind of the concept.
No, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And then I think one thing I'd love for you guys to do, where there's a lot of different terminology in Bitcoin that, again, if you've been working on smart contracts and you're working in, like, Ethereum, near Solana, whatever else, like, some of this terminology is definitely a little bit different. So from just a technical and developer standpoint, can we just talk through a little bit some of the terminology for people to better understand what some of the stuff is happening here? Maybe we can start with things like, again, terms like etch, UTXOs, things like that.
Yeah, you kind of need a crash course to figure out what's going on in this whole rules thing. This guy that Berted it, Casey, he kind of has a knack for intricate words for very regular things. But etching is effectively creating a token, and every token needs to have a unique name. So that way there's no confusion, right? When you get the name, you secured it. Nobody can do a copy or duplicate and try and scam you and whatever. But because they're unique, you didn't like the like short and really prestigious ones are not available yet. So the names are all kind of like long-ish, right? It started at 12 characters, and over time, smaller character ones unlock. So you pick a name, you pick an amount of like decimals or numbers after the decimal, right? You get to pick a symbol, which is kind of like you got to think about it more like a currency symbol, right? So instead of a dollar sign, you can pick most people pick like an emoji, but it could be a letter, a number,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of like the denomination of that token. And it works on this kind of concept of like an open mint, or like a fair mint, if you will. Like the its kind of predecessor, the BRC20s, were working, which was pretty popular. It's kind of a way to get distribution for a meme token without the users paying anything else than the gas fee, right? So you pick a total supply, and you pick a number of tokens that are minted every time somebody pays the gas fee and sends a Bitcoin transaction and says, I want to mint like one lot or one amount of this new token.
Yeah.
So say it's 1,000 and the max supply is 21 million, then you'll have something like 21,000 people that can mint the token and get a share of it before it's kind of minted out, and then whatever's in circulation is what the supply for this token is, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's a way to reserve supply, which means just to keep a certain amount for yourself as the creator of this token. And there's a way to limit the block range within which the minting happens. So if you want it to end, or to at least like whatever total supply it ends up at after block X, well then you can kind of put that an end in there, or you can make it start at a certain time.
What does that mean to stop at a particular block? So if it doesn't fully mint, that's the supply.
Yeah, that's the supply. That's
Okay.
whatever it landed at. So be it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this open mint is useful for exactly for a certain kind of token. But if you kind of have a project that's a bit more like in the traditional kind of sense, where you're going to do like a sale somewhere, or you want to use it for like utility, most often time you'll probably just reserve the whole supply, mint it all to yourself, and then
Right.
you'll distribute yourself, like you'll distribute it yourself to your users, over time, or keep a slice, or like you can do the more traditional, just minting a token for minting's sake.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, let's talk a little bit about, because the crux of all of this, if you are building here, is the UTXOs, and I think there is
Yeah,
definitely,
very important concept.
yeah, it's the concept. I think maybe is if you ever go through it, you start to see how it connects to something similar to writing to a smart contract, but it is still the kind of different and is not as straightforward.
Yeah, it is a very loaded thing and a very core thing. It's hard to put succinctly, but if we were talking specifically about runes and trying to educate about runes itself, runes made this decision that yes, it's all kind of a meta protocol. It's all just in messages that are tacked on to transactions, but the balance of rune you have is is always associated with a UTXO. So a bit like in Bitcoin, you have multiple unspent transaction inputs, UTXOs, in your wallet, and your balance is the sum of all of those, because you could spin all of them together. Runes also live on UTXOs. So when you mint one, there'll be a UTXO in that transaction minting that will have almost 0 Bitcoin on it, just enough to exist. But the runes balance will be associated with it. And over time, if you go into the marketplace and you buy some there, then you'll have multiple UTXOs with a balance of that rune token in them, right? And so your
Mhm.
balance is the sum of the balance that's held on all of those UTXOs. So a bit like with Bitcoin, when you're dealing with buying or selling on the native L1 marketplaces like Magic Eden, you end up having to take your runes balance and say split it up in a couple UTXOs, lots of a certain size. If you want to sell $2,000 of the rune, the token, you gotta split it in like a 1,500 tokens here, 1,500 tokens there, and then I'll sell those for this price,
Mhm.
because there's no smart contract that can just debit from your total balance, right? That's not recorded somewhere. It's all living associated to UTXO.
Right. 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 Interesting. Um, for yourself as someone who's designing these products and everything and building this out, is it something where, I know you guys are trying to build some layers on top of this to simplify all this else, but is it something where you feel the need to eventually go back and contribute to the larger Bitcoin protocol? Is it something that you say, look, we're just going to work within the bounds? Or do you feel the need to kind of be more activist around stuff as you guys are trying to drive uh, general development here?
Uh, okay, I think the consensus here is that there needs to be a little extra unlock at the core protocol level to enable much more, wild and crazy building on Bitcoin L1. And I think it's hard for any individual or individual organization to take that head on. Especially the reward is very unknown, because who knows if we're gonna even be able to land another big change on Bitcoin L1, right? So, but there's
Right.
very smart people out there that have been putting out, research papers and theories, and like, okay, this is how we could unlock the next, like the DeFi era on Bitcoin, and we're
Mhm.
monitoring all of those closely and really thinking about what we could be building with those the second they land. But until they do, I think we're kind of, yeah, everybody's kind of exploring what we can do on the fringes or with other, chains, other off-chain stuff, until either something like BitVM becomes more concrete, or something like Opcat, which is just a very simple but one more operator, or like script opcode, if you will, lands on Bitcoin. And if that does happen, then we'll see kind of a new flurry of innovation on L1. But that's not really kind of like for us to tackle if we want to have results and stay alive.
Yeah, for sure. And for you guys, I mean, how much of your development roadmap is purely focused on just executing on what you know you can execute on, versus again trying to innovate? And I don't necessarily mean like changes on the protocol itself, but just for yourselves of like trying to push the boundaries of X.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I missed that one.
I mean, I think the question is around like how much we're doing, like pushing the boundary, really innovating, or just really going about like after serving users or their needs. That I think we're really trying to mix both,
Hmm.
day in day out. We started out with simple tools, but like I don't think we're going after, we don't want to go about the like after the really simple or really basic stuff
Mhm.
anymore. So we like, I mean, this whole thing with Near is kind of like pushing the envelope and merging two things together, and so yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to do both at the same time is the answer,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
without considering something that would require Bitcoin L1 like change, right? That's
Sure.
the only limitation there. But yeah, we're on the lookout, and like I said, we're following that, so that the second that that's actually, viable or seeming like it's gonna land soon, then we're willing to go and do the R&D to be like, okay, this is brand new, nobody's ever built on this, but let's like we can make it happen for users. This will require, some some research and some making it happen, but once we do, it'll unlock this new experience for users, which will be great.
Absolutely. No, I mean that makes a ton of sense. That's a nice transition to, I think, I wanted to kind of wrap here a little bit, talking more specifically about Near. You guys kind of touched on it a little bit, but can we just kind of talk through what exactly you are integrating from Near, how you plan that this is, what kind of product comes out of this, what other, how, and again, maybe how do you see this continuing in the future to maybe expand on what you're doing?
So from a high level, I can kind of the first product that we're building is called Runeshot, and it will allow users to speed up the enjoyment and the excitement around launching tokens on Bitcoin. We want to streamline the process and make creating assets on Bitcoin fun and exciting, as we've seen kind of the success of this that's happened on other blockchains like Solana. So, utilizing Near in this way actually allows us to build out this protocol product that users can deposit their assets into, trade against them, and then at the end, whether they choose to sell the runes back to the bonding curve or not, they can then withdraw those assets using the master keys, so they have kind of control over it the whole time. From there, we're actually looking to expand this to a full runes trading terminal, and that will allow the trading of existing runes, so that users will be able to bring runes over, deposit them in, and then this will allow that fast, cheap trading experience as natively as possible to the Bitcoin L1, where users kind of really retain control. And yeah, these two products will also interact really nicely with each other as users. Once a product's been launched on Runeshot, it will, and it escapes the bonding curve, it will then be able to move straight over to the trading terminal. So this is this is kind of our really high level move to bring much more interest back to the Rune space at the moment. I think Yuzuru can kind of touch on how we're doing that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's yeah, like for now it's really about that abstracting the wallet creation or the gas or everything like that. But in the back end, yeah, when we're bridging those assets, when the users will bridge BTC, it'll be the Satoshi protocol Bitcoin on the actual near chain using the standard token contracts and everything. So really, if they were aware enough, they could open up any near app and look in their wallet and be like, oh, I have this Bitcoin that has those AMM pools I can trade against. Oh, I have those, all those Rune tokens that, Runemine did in their Runeshot app, which looks like just like a pump.fun, whatever. But really, all of those individual tokens I purchased, they're just there in my near wallet. And they have those AMM pools now because, with actual liquidity. So kind of like the world is the oyster for near if they really were adventurous enough to venture in that world. I think that's the advantage of building on standards and building on other protocols instead of really just kind of like keeping everything in just like one smart contract or just like as numbers on a sheet instead of exactly building on standards. And I think past that, this opens up the door for a lot more different products that have maybe a different clientele than the people, just like meme or token trading, which is kind of like the current meta. But like there's some kinds of more long-term things or more products that are maybe fitting a bit more in the DeFi narrative, is something that new that we can't even really think about that could build upon that for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could see you guys. Yeah, obviously, you could span the DeFi piece of it. Maybe some real world tokenization stuff. I could see people looking towards that, especially around, being able to settle onto Bitcoin really kind of makes a difference there too. Of like, the ultimate ledger of what things where things are. So, really interesting stuff. And for you guys going forward here, what is the next step? Like what's the next couple months look like for you guys going forward here?
So we're actually currently coming up to our TGE, and then we'll be looking to get the beta for Runeshot out. I think we're kind of targeting and somewhere around the end of February at the moment. Obviously, everything's kind of changing as we go through the development process. So that will happen. We actually have a Bitcoin L2 expansion to our bridge as well. So this is going to allow liquidity to flow from Solana to Bitcoin L2, as well as from Runes to Bitcoin L2. And that's kind of going to open up some more gateways. From there, as we are developing this tech with Near, there's the very real possibility of kind of activating Near on our main bridge. And that could also open up the floodgates to a whole lot more kind of interactions between these networks. And then, on top of that, where the trading terminals come in, there is a Bitcoin collateralized lending product that's potentially in the works. So we're really kind of innovating on a lot of fronts, and the beauty is a lot of these products actually, like the dev lift comes from other products. Even Runeshot comes from our Etch and Mint products. Now integrating Near, once we have this built out, the ability to kind of add another layers on top of that really opens up the doors to what we're able to kind of build, and the functionality that we're able to bring to users, whether they're coming from the Bitcoin space or from these other ecosystems. So it's really kind of just about bringing as many people together and giving them a user experience that they're not used to on Bitcoin, or if they are used to a user experience from another ecosystem, allowing these users to come in, interact with the Bitcoin ecosystem, but in a manner that they understand, at some point with the wallets that they're used to, and just kind of bring that excitement and interest back to Bitcoin, and I think that's kind of like the main focus at this point.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys really trying to innovate and try to build and focusing on product. As I was saying earlier, like we interview a lot of people here, and so much of it gets caught up in just trying to enable other developers, but which is great. And don't get me wrong, like that is a big piece of it. But it's nice to see also some teams trying to really focus on product and being able to ship something that end users can really get behind as well. So definitely excited to see that.
We appreciate that, and we ship at ridiculous speeds. It's everyone's working crazy hours, and it's really kind of been a process. This industry moves really fast,
Sure.
So for us, it's important to get these products out, get them into the users' hands, and no one knows what's going to happen with these cycles and how things are going to carry on. But we're working literally as hard as we could to get these products out to users and get them involved with what we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really great to see. Awesome stuff. Any last thing you guys maybe want to just kind of end on? Anything we maybe missed or go over? I think this was really informative. I'm glad we got to go over some of the technical components of how this all kind of works together. But anything you guys want to end on?
On our end, TG is coming up. We do currently have a open round available for anyone that wants to get in before we actually get to that point. It's called Mine Genesis. It's live on our page. We're releasing update after update and announcement after announcement from partnerships to teams that we're working with. Another thing I probably forgot to mention earlier on is we are in discussions with a bunch of wallets, even centralized exchanges, looking to integrate our solutions on the back end. So there's going to be announcements coming out about that. There's going to be announcements coming out about the products as we kind of release more information moving forwards. So it's you can see our timeline at the moment. We're currently on multiple announcements every single day. So the best thing for anyone that's interested to kind of like learn more is just follow us on there. Also jump in our Discord as well, because we have a really great set of mods, and as a team, we're in there really regularly, kind of sharing new alpha, answering questions that anyone has. And if you have any integrations or any teams out there looking to kind of work alongside us, integrate our bridge, or looking for information on our indexer, just jump in the Discord, open a ticket. You can send us a DM on Twitter, but we get a lot that goes through there. So
yeah,
you're way better off just jumping in the Discord, open a ticket, and we're super interested to talk to everyone from the Near ecosystem or any other ecosystem, and see how we can work together, because that's really how we're kind of going to continue to grow this new ecosystem, is by working with other projects. And that's something that the Near ecosystem has been so great since we started. Everyone who we've talked to has been super helpful, and we're really, really grateful for the welcome that we've had here in the Near ecosystem.
That's awesome to hear. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on today, talking us through. I certainly learned stuff. This was cool to see, and I wish you both the best of luck with this. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Hey. Great stuff, guys. This was fun. I certainly learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. From a development standpoint, as you can see, a lot of opportunity there. A lot of different ways to actually go about what they're building. But it's nice to see a team come on and talk about product and things like that. A couple just minor housekeeping stuff that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. So you can follow along on our newsletter. We have lots of stuff being updated there regularly. There is a lot happening in the ecosystem right now. Tomorrow we have a chain abstraction workshop here. So that will be live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UTC. Come check that out. Come learn about, again, integrating some of the stuff around chain abstraction. We've done a few different workshops in the past. Just again, another one refresher. You can always come and ask questions if you have questions as well during that show as well. So make sure you check that out. I will end with we have some great guests coming up the following next few weeks here. Next week, we are doing an episode on security, contract auditing. That will be really great. That's a good one for developers, even non-developers, just to learn how what security needs to go into contracts. You're moving your money around. It's good to know how all that works and how security and auditing all actually works and what it means when a contract actually gets audited, things like that. Then we'll be talking, through February, talking to some wallet makers. We have some other different developers coming on. We're doing some stuff at all different spaces, including near AI as well. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Really, excited to hear feedback of what people are looking for, especially as we do some more workshops coming up. So make sure you're following along. DevHub handle is here in my title. Make sure you're following that, as well as subscribing to the newsletter to get those updates each and every week. But until tomorrow for the workshop at 5 p.m. On chain abstraction, I'm your host, Joe, and we will see you again both this time next week and tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC. Thanks all. Bye-bye.